Okay, welcome to the Shots Pod, where we discuss all things Old Shot Town FC. I'm Liam Flint. I'm joined as always by my dad, Howard Flint. And today we have the gaffer with us. We have Shots Manager Tommy Widdrington. He's just come back from training, much like Jamie Hedges last week, but he looks a little bit more unflustered than Jamie did. Great to have you with us, Tommy. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Like you said, we all travel in from various parts of the country. Actually, the coaching staff and the support staff. But we wouldn't change a thing at the minute.
Brilliant. And Dad, I know we've spoken on the last few episodes about getting Tommy on. We made the plea, Tommy replied, and we've managed to do it. So yeah, it's going to be good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, Tommy, we're really grateful. We know, how full on it is. So we're really grateful, first and foremost, for you, sparing time. So thank you.
That's no problem at all.
Thank you.
So Tommy, we'll keep it nice and light. We're basically just going to start by touching on a little bit of the last week, how life's been for you, and then we'd really like to just pick your brains on life as the Shots manager, really. And I know it's been a terrific season. We're keen to just encourage and talk to you a lot about that. But just for starters, it'd be really interesting to just chat about, obviously, the fixtures we've just had that have gone. So obviously it's been a few days now, hasn't it, since the Fylde defeat. I know you've done your interview where you've spoken about the game, so we're not going to rehash that. But I just found it interesting, having watched your pre-match interview a few days later, but obviously previewing the game on Saturday. You obviously explained a lot of what's going on. We need to rotate. This is why I did this, and this is why I did this. It felt like there was a little bit of, I just want fans to understand that actually I'm the manager. We need to rotate. People need to just almost trust us a bit more. Is that fair to say that?
I think particularly after a defeat, emotions run high or higher in the perception of the fan. But that's not always the case. We're very passionate and we're very emotional about things as well. But I think we don't look for as much. That's the problem as fans do, and that's understandable. They pay their money; they're entitled to their opinion. But you'll never see me explaining why we win, and I don't think I should explain why we've lost. But I understand people want to know why has this happened or why has this not happened. But again, for the reasons that I'm going to give you, probably for questions I'm preempting, you're going to ask me in a minute. Some things are football business and some things are open public business. And I think I don't like washing my dirty laundry in the public when we've lost. And I don't like gloating when we've won. So I tend to try and not give too many finer details. And I skirt around. If you watch me in interviews, I've been schooled very well by some good people. I'll skirt around a lot of what's asked me and give them the answers that I come into the interview with. So then, having done that to you now with your first question, you understand where I'm coming from there. Some things fans and supporters are entitled to know if people are injured and ill, but at the time of the question answer asked to me or my staff, they may not want to volunteer that because of the sensitivity of the situation behind closed doors. That's the best answer I can give you for that. If you want to go around or go through games and ask what happened there and what happened there, I wouldn't be able to give you the answers off the top of my head. I'd have to look back because we literally do. I don't really assess the whole thing until towards the end of the season. I assess every game in here as it's happening. And then statistically, after the event, a day or so, we get full reports about every action, every movement, every performance stat, KPI, whatever you want to call it, of every player. So we know who's performing correctly as an individual, in a pairing, in a unit, and then as a team. And I know the stats. Trust me, I'm better than most at remembering the stats. So if anybody wants to question me on that, I would never do it in public. I would never do it on an interview. But if they want to come and have a chat with me in the office, I'll show them in black and white. But that's not why we pick teams. We pick teams, we see emotion, we know what's going on with family. There might be, God forbid, a bereavement. There could be anything happening that people will never know because I don't tell them. There might be incidences where a player comes to me and only me, and he confides in me for a reason. Again, I won't disclose to you, but it will be I will judge that something that he's not right to play, and that stays between me and the player. On other things, again, other things, football business, i.e. money, that's a different thing. And that, again, should never, in my opinion, be put into the public domain, because then the public will form an opinion of a player simply because of money. And I don't think that's right either. Okay, so that's probably the best answer, or rounded answer I can give to the first question that you asked.
No, I appreciate that, Tommy. I mean, Dad, we understand that, don't we? We've spoken many times about, on a fan level, it is just very raw. Sometimes it's very uneducated. Fans think they're the experts, but actually, obviously, Tommy's paid to do this job. He's got his team behind him. And sometimes we just need to, trust the process and take the win, take the defeat, and move on.
Yeah, I think so. And I think certainly, Liam and I understand what you're saying, Tommy. Social media doesn't always give that forgiveness, does it? It's not always as well thought through as that. Have you found that sort of irritating or challenging recently, post-filed? Because obviously before that, we were 4 unbeaten and I think playing really well. Could have beaten Bromley. Probably should have beaten Bromley, given the chances and so on. So it could have been 3 out of 4 against good sides. Has that got to you a bit?
No, it would never get to me. Social media, for my opinion, is for what my opinion's worth. It's a load of nonsense. So the people's opinions on social media are their opinion. That's it. They don't mean anything to me. I know I had a little tete-a-tete very, very early when I came to the club. I can't even remember the guy's name, but I invited him into the office for a chat and told him exactly why I said what I said on the social media. But I learned very quickly that a club this size, there's no point in trying to resonate or reason with people who have made their minds up on certain things, and I have to dismiss that like I would dismiss people who tell me I'm great every weekend, because give it a month and we don't win for a month, and I'm out the door in people's eyes. And I get it. I've been in football probably as long as anybody at this football club. There might be supporters who've supported Aldershot and Aldershot Town longer than I've been alive. But actually working and living in the game, there won't be many people at the EBB tomorrow that have been in that. The length that Terry Brown might be one, but other than Terry, there's probably not many more.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tommy. I mean, one thing I wanted to just mention was, I don't know if you'd seen Chris Beech's interview post. This is Files Manager. Chris was really complimentary about the fans on Tuesday, even though the result wasn't what we wanted. Does that encourage you that actually the fans in person stayed with the team pretty well?
I thought it was outstanding, and I can say this now because, when we're recording this, I've already done my programme notes, so I'm not jumping on the back of that. But I mentioned that in my programme notes. I thought it was an outstanding effort from the fans. They understood. There was a lot of things that we did wrong as a team. I'm on about. I didn't do a lot wrong, by the way. I'm going to tell you that. My tactics weren't wrong. But there was 3 people that were vital to what our team game plan was. And for 21 minutes, they were all on the pitch. Okay? The moment that one of them came off the pitch, things started to fall around us, because we were playing a slightly different way. Now, whether people realise that or not, I know for sure everybody watching the game who understands we lost the game 5-0 will go, now that's an excuse. No, it isn't. We were well in that game. We should have been 1, possibly 2-0 up at the time, and we weren't. And then we lost Josh, and then we lost Kian, and then because we lost them 2, I then made a substitution at half-time because of the state of the team that the team was in, with yellow cards and what have you. So, the game plan at the beginning looked absolutely excellent from everybody's point of view, from where we were stood, and we actually started it off pat. We wanted to be how we wanted to be. But again, I won't mention outside influences more than using that term. But we could blame decisions, we could blame officialdom, but I don't do that very often, because ultimately we've got to be, held responsible for our actions. And if that's a manager, if that's a player, we've got to get on with it. But what I do say is, we do, as a group, and this is players, staff, and the fans showed on Tuesday night there, we've got to win together, we've got to lose together, and and how you react to that is up to you as an individual. If you're not part of my group, how you react to a win and a loss. If I'm your manager, there are no, you can't do the up there when you win and the down there when you lose. We have to be really constant across the board. And I think that's a really good trait of the group, because we've had, that sort of thing happen this season a few times. We certainly had a punch on the nose a couple of times, but we've always responded in a positive within a game or two. And I think that's a really positive trait. And a big part of that is knowing, particularly at home, and I'm not saying that the away support is any less fervent or, backing than they are at home, but at home in particular, we seem to be very comfortable in our skin as a group. The teams tend to roll out performances fairly regularly of a certain level, which is where I want it to be. And I'd much prefer to be like that at home than I would be away from home. I'd much prefer to do it home and away, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're going to give me one or the other, one of my remits, I think I said this a few times when I came in the building, was the home form has to improve. And, I think, look, when I came in, I always give myself 6 months in my own head wherever I've gone to a new job. And I always think after 6 months, I'll either have 6 months of excuses or 6 months of progress. And I firmly believe we're in the latter. We've certainly progressed. It's now a little bit more than 6 months, but the period that we've been at the football club, which is coming up a year in April, I think we're certainly on the upward trajectory, which is where the football club and everybody who supports it, works for it, is part of it, wants it to go. Yeah, that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just really good insight, Tommy. Even that, I think from a fan perspective, just really helpful to know. Because much of what you're saying, fans just wouldn't get access to that information. They wouldn't know the mindset of how you're thinking. So I think that's just brilliant in terms of leveling the playing field a little bit. And I think people will be really encouraged by that. You mentioned a few kind of punches on the nose there. I think Hugo Langton in his post-match, he called it a roller coaster. I know you've spoken a few times about that. That this season has had huge highs. It's had some lows. You've spoken about that already, saying our performances have gone up and down. Is there any part of you that thinks for your blood pressure, you'd love to have a gentle ride and just have a consistent side that maybe isn't as, attacking, but we ground it out? Or is that just not your philosophy at all?
I hate the word philosophy in football. I think that's for classrooms and universities. I don't believe in philosophies. I believe in wanting to win football matches and not wanting to win football matches. That's the first thing. What I will say to you is, of course, I want a team like Arsenal when they conceded 0 goals almost and they win by 1-0. But the fans wouldn't enjoy that as much as what they've, I don't think, as what they've enjoyed it this season. But I always, I think, again, as a collective, people have got to stop worrying about what could go, wrong and start being concerned about, what could go, how much has gone right, and that's a balance. I'm always on the weighing the what's gone wrong down here, what's going right is going up there. When that balance shifts, then I would have to make more change. There'll always be change. While I'm the manager, there will always be change in this playing staff. I was told very, very early in my coaching and managerial career by a very, very well-known manager, I'll not mention him, but he said to me, players will take the milk out of your tea. What he meant by that, you can read between the lines, but he's right, by the way. I was a player, and so I know what he was talking about. And now I'm a manager, I definitely know what he's talking about. So each player has to be treated very, very differently. Unlike on a Saturday when they're part of the team and the fans who are in the ground treat them all the same. They want them all to win. They want them all to do well. But getting them into that point at 3:00 on a Saturday is a monumental roller coaster ride through the week. If there's a game Saturday to Saturday, the different nuances needed for each and every player. Some are so different to others, physically, mentally, healthy. All of them factors. I could go on. I could, experience, inexperience. All of them things are weighed in. Because I asked the group at the beginning of the season, put your hand up if you'd played 40 games in a season, and I think there was only 3. I think there was only 3. So again, I've mentioned this on one or two occasions. I don't know if it's been in my notes or in interviews, but a lot of our players will be going into uncharted territory for them in terms of their body and stuff like that. So, that's why I've said about a roller coaster ride. I hate roller coasters, by the way. I don't like them. I've got that kind of tummy that doesn't like them. So I don't particularly like the roller coaster ride, but I knew what I was meaning when I said it. But it keeps getting thrown back at me. It is a bit of a roller coaster. I know that, but we have had a lot more, peaks and troughs, and I don't mind that.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, Dad, we've waxed lyrical about that, and we would 100% agree, wouldn't we, that this is one of the best seasons, most enjoyable seasons that we've had as fans in the highs and the lows, and that is down to Tommy and the staff.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, one of your predecessors, Tommy, Gary Waddock, had a famous, and Gary's, a hero at the club, really, for lots of things. Yeah. But Gary used to say, we'll score one more than they will, particularly in his first spell at the club. And I feel it's a bit like that for us at the moment. That probably is not brilliant for you, but it feels a little bit like, so often it can be a basketball type game. But I think it's been a fantastic season. And we've Liam and I and loads of the fans have loved just the excitement of not knowing what's going to happen, but knowing the players are actually behind I won't use the word philosophy, but it's only behind the plan.
Yeah, you could use the word philosophy. It's just I don't particularly like to use. It's like science. I don't like using the word sports sciences. It's not science. It's football. It's what it is. It's a game of football. And as far as I remember, once that fella who picked the ball up and made it an egg-shaped ball. There's 2 goals. There's 11 blokes on each side. The pitch dimensions are near enough the same. It's not changed that much. It's the powers that be are changing the game in a way that I don't like. I've got to say, the laws of the game or the interpretation of the laws of the game, that's the part of the game that I'm finding difficult myself to understand why they want to change. I really don't. I don't get that.
Right, Tommy, wide view lens for a moment. When you look at your objectives for this season and how much great fun we've had, drama we've had with playoffs contention, are you quietly surprised, or is this exactly on schedule where you thought we'd be, should be, and will always be?
No. It's what I wish for, what I hope for. I felt with the group that we put together, we were certainly going to improve on where we were when I came into the football club. I just felt we've put more energy, more legs, more athleticism, and a brand of football. That's what I would call it. We know how we want to play the game, and of course, there's 11 people every week trying to stop you from doing what you want to do. But I had the belief in the group that we put together, including the lads that I retained, that we could do much better. I think I said again, I might have already just said this. The remits I had when I came in were make the home form improve, win an FA Cup game, and the other one was let's not be looking over our shoulder at Christmas at the wrong dotted line. And that's happened. So we ticked a lot of boxes for the initial remit, but as is my job, and the chairman and the people at the top of the football club, it's important that we have regular meetings to see where the football club want to go. Because, like I said, financials and business will stay in house always. Numbers will never come out from me. I'm sure they'll never come out from the chairman or the board. But what I will say is, I think it's no secret that the budget of the club isn't in the top 6 or 7 of the division. Okay, and it may well not be in the top 12 or 15. Okay, I don't know that. I'm just saying, bearing in mind, I'm aware a lot of the other budgets because of who I know and where I've worked before and what they pay. I know we are there's a ceiling on where we are, but we are outperforming that. That's what I do know. Now, if the club, and I mean this, the club, that is the people at the top above me, perceive this to be a better situation, yet we've done it on the budget that we've done it, I have to, as a manager, manage up and push that ceiling if I can to see if there is any more. And that's a discussion the chairman and I will be having in the next couple of weeks, really, because I gave after the 4 games you mentioned that we did really well, there was a 10-day break, which we give the players a few more days rest and what have you. I knew the next 4 games would probably shape or give everybody. It's probably happened already, but everybody says we've got a chance of getting in the playoffs. I think after the next 3 games now, we'll probably know whether we're going to be there or thereabouts, because there's only then 10 games or 11 games left. And not a lot changes usually in 10-game periods. People won't understand what I'm talking about there, but everybody thinks you change massively in January if it's going poorly. There isn't always a great change. The change has to happen at a specific period, and the best point is in the summer, without a doubt, which hence is why I want to try and get as many of the players that I want to retain retained well before the summer.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've gone off piste a little bit there, but I just feel we're ahead of where we expected to be, without a doubt. And but what that does is it brings expectation. It brings expectation to the fans first and foremost. They think, well, we started like that and we should be staying like that. But the factors that, for which I've mentioned in varying questions you've given me, i.e., players going beyond what they've done before in their lives in terms of minutes on the pitch in one season, players playing first-team football for the first time regularly in their lives. People like Laurent Soulage, he's never played a consecutive amount of games like he's doing now, ever, other than in youth football. Josh Stokes is probably one of the most experienced guys. He's 19, which is crazy when you think about it. Then the other spectrum, you've got Stewart, who's a seasoned pro, and had a blip at the beginning of the season with an injury that's kept him out a long time. Them sort of things. So, yeah, I mean, we're ahead of where we want to be. Could we be higher? Yeah, I actually think we could. But could we be lower? Because if you look, well, I could tell you, I could reel them off to you. I've had to use about 7 different partnerships in the middle of the pitch. And that's not ideal for anybody. But I know which partnerships have worked better than others. I know that, okay? But the people who fit better together haven't been available that often to be able to pick together, okay? And that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Tommy. And midfield's been an interesting discussion, amongst fans, and that's largely, I guess, because of injury and unavailability, and that's been a challenge. Just going back to you coming to the club, Tommy. I mean, those of us who've been supporters for a while know that it's been a real struggle in the last 3 or 4 years, and relegation's been on the horizon. Did you have any second thoughts or reservations about taking the job?
None. I've been coming to Aldershot, the ground, for near on 20 years. Since I went to Salisbury in 2005 as a player coach, I often came to watch games. There was a reserve league used to be played there in an afternoon, and then there was obviously the Premier League 2 stuff was there. But I used to come and watch Gary's team. I'm good friends with Gary. I know him well, and I've actually on numerous occasions in my slightly younger days or my earlier days in management have phoned him for advice on different things when I had to make big decisions on staff very close to me or players that I was managing, and he gave me excellent advice, I've got to say. Still does. I still do ring him now and again. He rang me when I got the job to wish me all the very best and say what a great club I was taking over. So yeah, the answer to your question is categorically I had no doubt whatsoever that this was. And do you know what? And I had this conversation this morning about somebody else who you'll learn about soon. Sometimes in football, you have to make a decision for yourself. And I haven't done that often enough. I've done it to please sometimes. I've gone with the flow, or I've possibly made a decision in spite of me actually knowing I'm doing this to spite somebody else, But I'm at a stage in my life now where, I think nobody owes me anything. The game doesn't owe me anything. I work because I want to work in football. That's what I've done since I left 2 days after I left school. And that's what I want to do. So the opportunity for me to come to this football club came about. And yeah, I had no hesitation. I thought I'd be a good fit for it.
Well, we're very glad you did, Tommy. Very glad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do really appreciate it. And rapport with the fans, Tommy. You seem to have. I mean, obviously the last few years have been tough. We've been at the wrong end of the table, so it's always been a bit strained. But I think particularly, I think you've done such a good job at building an understanding with the fans. You're a passionate guy. Is there any particular method you've gone about doing that, or is that just you as you are at every club?
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't see how I do that. I can't see that because that's just me. People tell me, "Oh, you're so passionate," and you're. What I am is I'm in the game. When I'm there, I'm in the game. I wish I was playing. I wish I was still playing. There is no substitute. You know, if you've ever played the game at any level, the moment you can't, once that's taken away from you, the next best thing is being able to influence or affect people who are playing the game. And for me, you know, I didn't think that management was going to be my thing. I did as soon as I finished playing because that's all I could see, coaching and managing. But once I moved into recruitment, which I did thanks to Mark Robbins at Coventry City, but before that, even in 2010, when Lee Clark was at Huddersfield Town, I was scouting for 15 years or so before I left Bristol Rovers to go to Kings Lynn. And I had a passion for that. It's something that I just feel I can see things that possibly other people might not see, or not even that. I think I've got the neck to put it out there and go, look, if I was you, and I've been you because I've been the manager, I would do this. I would sign that player. And that's the way I've sort of, anybody who works for me in a recruitment sense, certainly the one I've taken under my wing, who you've already spoken to, he'll tell you the biggest thing he has to do is make decisions. And that is so important in recruitment. Is anybody can be lazy and see that Lauren Talage has scored 20 goals and they could all ring me up and say, we want him. I was like, well, why didn't you want him for the last 3 years? Oh, he didn't score any goals. Yeah, but the lad was pushed out to Cambridge at 19-year-old, pushed out to Salford at 20, thrown up to Scotland at 21 because he was having an exit out of the Premier League football club. And he had a pathway blocked by an outstanding youngster who's going to play at the highest of high levels. But Lauren doesn't get bought from Sion at 18 or 17 and brought overseas to Brighton without having a special talent. And I just don't understand, for the life of me, I love that it's happened, but I don't understand how the likes of him and Josh Stokes are bumping around in this division just to be seen again. It's a strange thing. If I was a director of a football club at a lot of football clubs, I would be sacking a lot of technical directors and heads of scouting departments. Honestly, I would.
Well, I think safe to say we're glad that they're knocking around at our level for now. We get the joy of watching them. I'm sure you do as well, Tommy. It's nice to manage them, isn't it? But I think, we'll touch on recruitment in a moment. I just wanted to touch base. Obviously, this is a father-son podcast, so I had to ask you about, obviously, you and Theo being at Aldershot Town together. Can you just let us into the dynamic there? If you're a football manager, your son's at the club, what is that like for you? I imagine it's a real joy to obviously have him there with you. Does it cause some headaches and some interesting situations as well?
Well, it's not a joy. It's not a joy. I mean, first and foremost, he's the middle son, so I don't even like him. So from that point of view, the best way I can describe this is I think he handles it fantastically well. I think people might think there's nepotism there, which there is not. What I do know is, like I said to you, statistically, he's earned his right to be here. Statistically, he's earned his right to be in the team. That's fact. Whether people like him or like that comment or not, again, they can entitled to their opinion. I know what I'm talking about in that respect. And the fact that, like I said, about the amount of partnerships we've had to go through, the common denominator has been him for the most part. He's played with more people than anybody else has played in the middle with other people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been I think it's been a tough time for him in terms of adapting to each and every single one of them that he's playing with. And that would be the same if it would have been, if Ryan Glover had stayed in the centre of the park and then he played with Stu, then he played with Days, then he played with Frosty. It would be this, or Tommy Willard. All of them guys would find that difficult because they've all got very different skill sets. Whereas anybody who knows anything about the game will tell you that in the back line, we have a particularly good player with an unbelievable range of passing. Okay? Well, we have one who plays in the middle of the park, given the time and space, who also has that. But because of the way we're having to shift things around, that doesn't really come out as much as what I'd like it to. So, yeah, father and son, it's not an issue at work. He doesn't call me dad first and foremost. Never do that. He doesn't even call me dad when I'm at home. So from that point of view, you listen, at the end of the day, you'd have to ask somebody else how I think people other than me and him are uncomfortable about it. But I'm not, and neither is he. As far as I'm concerned, he's a player. If he wasn't doing his job the way I wanted him to do his job, he'd be out the door the same as somebody else would. That's how it works, you know. Statistically, last year, he was one of the best players in his position in the division that he played in, which was one below this one. And the season that I took over at Kings Lynn when he came there, he was one of the better performers in this division in that club. So, like I said, I saw Jamie told me that he'd explained how he works and stuff like that. So he was part of a group of people that became obtainable to us. And so that's why he came. And like I said, I completely understand. It doesn't affect me. And I don't know if it affects him. I don't talk about it. But my wife, his stepmom, and his mum, and his sister, and his girlfriend get upset because they're human beings. If they're standing at the side of the pitch and people are giving him grief, same as if, Keane getting sent off through the night, people would have been screaming and shouting at him on the way off the pitch. His extended people will not like that. But it's part of the game. We understand that. And, if you can't stand up to that, you won't last in the game very long. So I've got skin thicker than a rhino. I don't know about Theo. We generally don't speak a lot, honestly. I'm being honest with you. I don't really speak to him a lot at work. And if we speak 2 or 3 times a week as a father and son, it's because usually he wants something, like all sons, you know that, or he's talking about his sister or his brother or his granddad, who I don't see so much anymore. So I think he needs more credit than he's getting to be handling the non-football stuff. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, we're hopeful we can chat to Theo on our podcast because, we've been in touch with him and I know he's keen to chat with us. So we'll maybe ask him about his dad, this funny chap he works with, and see. But just staying on recruitment, you've had a lot of highs and I don't think many misses at all that I've seen anyway in watching the squad this year. And you seem very loyal to players that you've worked with previously. And I know probably you'll say that's to do with stats and the player. But there's a lot of players you worked with before. Can that be a blind spot at times that you know the guy, but at the moment he's not performing, and like you say, you might try and please someone rather than make a tough decision?
Well, I would never. When you say please someone, you mean please the player, or?
Yeah, possibly.
No.
You brought them, so they'd expect to play, I guess.
No, nobody I've ever signed ever have I told them they're guaranteed to play.
Right.
Never. So that's first and foremost. I would probably say if you've been brought to the football club by me in the beginning, you're likely to get a chance to prove yourself, and because I know what you do. But there is as many players I haven't worked with. People keep linking me to certain players that have come to this club, thinking that I've been there, signed them at other clubs. I've done the deals for the manager who wanted them. So I was the director of football who did the contracts. So I've been linked intrinsically to certain players, but I've never signed Josh Barrett before. So people think he's followed me around. He hasn't. Other managers who I was working for as a recruiter said to me, "What about him?" I went, "Yeah, but he's not a 90-minute man at this level. You need to know you got to use him." So that's how Josh has ended up at clubs where I've been at. So. And again, statistically, as a young lad, he was off to scale the best under 23 when he was at Reading. So that's an example of that. I don't do favours. I don't do favours to anybody in terms of, at the end of the day, I told you, my neck's on the line for games. In terms of recruitment, you used the term there, highs and lows. If you ask me what the highs, I don't know if you mean in general this season or just about recruitment, every single player you achieve to get in the building, if you hit them as a target, that's a high, huge high. The massive lows, and these are my only lows this season. Christian McGoma snapping his Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
Stuart hurting his knee 4 games in. Theo pulling his hamstring. Ollie Scott pulling his hamstring. AJ, Kwame landing on AJ and knacking his ankle up. They are huge lows to me. Not because I've signed them, it's because I know that affects us as a group. Our collective intention is to go together forward, and as many as I can have fit and well, we'll do better. So the moment we get an injury as catastrophic as what Christian's was, that had me almost physically ill for a couple of days because I'd worked really hard with Jamie to get that one over the line. He was a big target for us. So, yeah, has every single recruitment from this football club for us been a huge success? Well, no, but I don't think anybody in the world of football could ever say that they have. I was at a seminar once when I was director of football for Bristol Rovers, and the famous Monchi, who is supposedly the best scout on the planet, did an hour's chat in Spanish and in English. He was so clever. He was very good. But one of his things was anybody who tells you they've never got one wrong is a liar. And also the other myth in recruitment, I will never ever say I found him. It's never a one-man job. Never ever. As a manager, I've got probably more knowledge than most managers because of my recent history in work. And so Jamie obviously knows a lot of what I know because I've passed that on to Jamie. Now, that relationship is huge in a football sense because I can't give the time that I would like to give to go and confirm with my own eyes sometimes. I have to trust the eyes that I'm sending out. And I know the people that Jamie sends out because I've given them to Jamie. So the network of people who are watching the games that I can't get to. Bearing in mind, I do go all over the place. Every time we haven't got a game on a Tuesday, I sometimes go to a game on the way home on a Monday, on the way home on a Friday, or I'll go back out tonight to an under-23 game, things like that. But you cannot give... I mean, I remember my last full season at Bristol Rovers as a recruiter, I watched... You have a guess. How many games do you think I watched in a season?
2 a week, 3 a week. So, 150?
240.
Wow.
240 in probably about 4 different countries. And that's like, you're looking at 4 or 5 games a week.
Yeah.
So, your strategy at that level, all I do here is I try to, and I mean this sincerely to anybody who's gone before me, I've played at the highest level and been coached there and every level down to this one. And I just try to, with the logistics that we have and the facilities and the financials we have, it's just a watered down version of what the very best do. That's what I try to give here. And I think that them structures that we've put in place with recruitment, with coaching, and the people that are doing it is probably why we've had such a quick upturn. But with a very quick upturn will come a leveling out period. Because if I get what I want retained, there won't be as big a flush in this summer. There was a big flush last year because there had to be. This year, a lot of players may choose that they want to leave because they're not getting enough game time in their eyes, or they're going to get, or we might get blown out of the water in terms of financial offers. I don't know. There could be all sorts of reasons, but in my head, I have a picture. We have a plan of who we would like to add to the retained people already. And so far, it's going all right. It's going all right.
So might we see a few more contract extensions announced soon, Tommy, do you think?
I'd like to think so. We're in negotiations with a couple of the lads. Like I said, reasons for signing and not signing are absolutely, there's a plethora of reasons. Location, finance, family. Like I said, perceived game time potential. People who say to me, well, I want to know that I'm playing. Well, don't come here then. I use this. I've used this term a lot to the players. So, I genuinely, and this can be reverted back to your question about father and son. I don't care what they look like. I haven't got to I don't care. I don't care what name is there. I only want the 11 blokes to look at me who start the game, who want to give every single thing for that. That's it. That's it. And if them 11 start and they're done, we have to take them off, put 3 more on. Them 3 who come from them 5 have got to be on board. And I make sure whoever doesn't start will go directly to the guy who's playing in his position, shake his hand before the game and wish him all the best, because he's going to do the same when he comes off and he goes on. And I think we've got a really, really good group of lads for this. We've got Jamie used the word sweet spot. There is an age of players that we have that are near enough at the very same levels of their own careers. And I think they get it. They get what we're trying to do.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I think with this level of insight you're giving us, Tommy, we should sign you up for a podcast series and we'll get you on 10 episodes. Just follow you around.
Be careful, Liam. He'll start charging us if we're not careful.
Absolutely. My time's not free. But it is today. You'll find today.
Maybe not then. Tommy, I wanted to mention Josh Stokes to you. Obviously, key player, played so well. You must be so proud of him and his development. The fact that we've been able to get him in this league, as you said, shouldn't be knocking about in the lower leagues anyway. You said in an interview before Christmas, players would only leave on our terms. No one's going to, the club's not going to be made to look silly in any way. And I feel like the way that Josh Stokes' deal got done, obviously behind the scenes, really reflected that. And obviously in the fact that he's got his move to Bristol City, great for him, great for the league, decent amount of money we're assuming. And then for him to be loaned back, you must be really pleased that ultimately that's good for us, good for Bristol, good for the league, and you get him for the rest of the season.
You've hit the nail on it. I could just answer yes to that. I agree with everything you've just said. But listen, I feel immense pride in this one because of the level that he was playing at. The situation that we made him our first signing when we came to the club. And I'll never forget him and his mum and dad coming to the EBB. And they were like, wow, at that stadium. So goodness knows what it was like when they went down to Bristol City. And I did say to them, as Josh was having his photographs taken on the pitch with Sam in the summer, I said, this is just a step in the ladder for him. And they were like, really? I went, yeah. And they went, oh my word. They were so like, I'm not saying the non-football people, but they just hadn't been around football people. I could tell that. But they've been so supportive, both Mark and Donna. And it's like, I've had a relationship with them without really having a relationship with them because I met them. But every time I see them, I chat with them, and I've been sort of championing Josh's behind the scenes performance to them about what a person, what a lad. There's nothing in his life more important than that football. I think he goes to bed with the football, to be honest with you. I do. I don't think he had a teddy bear. I think he goes to bed with football. But he's a lad who he's dedicated himself by coming here. He knows he had to work hard, but I think that's a given with him. He's been a pleasure to coach. He's been a pleasure to manage, and he now has created, I think, something that people in the group and hopefully outside the group who I might be interested in the future, that there is a genuine pathway here. I heard you say on another podcast about, people use us as a stepping stone because of where we are in the general scheme of things. That's going to happen. But I can tell you now, I'll not tell you the names, but there was 3 Premier League clubs wanted him. There was at least 3 or 4 Championship clubs wanted him, and nearly everybody in League One wanted him. So, but me and him, his family, and his representative from day one said he needs a full season at this level. So if he was to be sold, if he did surprise us all and do as well as he did do before Christmas, there was no negotiations, and the agent could have easily changed his mind, because if he'd wanted to move him, he could have. But I would then advise the club, and I've got to give our chairman massive credit here for letting me deal with that whole situation solely and then deliver it to him. I wouldn't have sold him in the window. I just wouldn't have done it if he hadn't come back to us on loan. So that was the same with anybody else who I feel is irreplaceable, for want of a better. Everybody's replaceable, by the way, but irreplaceable at that time. I couldn't find another one of them at that time. So I'm delighted for him, his family. Like I said, his representatives got to be given a pat on the back here. They get really poor shrift from a lot of managers, a lot of clubs, and a lot of newspapers. But on this case, I have to say, his rep's been true to his word, and I think has picked a really good club for Josh. People won't know this, but the people at the very top of that club coached Josh at Ipswich when he was a kid. So there's a connection there too. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people won't know, and that's Josh's business. But I think it's a really good fit. I think the model that they have, they veered off it for a little while, but they need players of his age to be excelling. And I think he'll get a chance. I really do. And I can't wish him any. I wish him all the luck in the world. I really do. Because he'll need a little bit of luck, but I think his drive and his application has been an indicator. Well, no, it's been an absolute. What's the word? Anybody who's watched us train would pick him out. Yeah. And that's a testament to the way he trains every day. Not just him, there's a couple, but certainly him is eye-catching.
Yeah. And Jamie definitely echoed that. And Dad, I know you've spoken about Jamie a lot of times. You thought he'd go at least Championship, didn't you? And actually, Bristol City, great destination. A lot of their young guys have gone up to the Premier League, young strikers, midfielders. So it feels like, he's on the way up, and you've said that for months.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's a real credit to the club, Tommy, that I'm sure other clubs would look and say, well, we can trust this club with our young players, whoever that might be, which is brilliant, isn't it?
It is, but there's a bit of there's a caveat needs to be put into that, because what I don't want to be ending up is I don't want to be developing other clubs' players. I've got no problem in this situation because everybody wins. It's right for the player. It's right for this club, our club, and it's good fit for the player to the next club. I get what you said, and if you look historically, because I did, we had a policy. The football club had a policy before I got here of taking a goalkeeper on loan. Now, but part of that was he had to play. Now, if he didn't do what the manager wanted him to do, it's very difficult for the manager to tell the Premier League club, well, he isn't playing anymore. So I didn't want to be held to that. What I'm getting at there is I don't want to be seen to be just taking loans and developing players and sending them back to really good clubs. What I want to make a habit of is finding people like Laurent and Josh, and if people before me have tried it. If you look, Ryan Glover, Ollie Hartfield have all had really good youth and development careers, but it's only now really that their first team legacy is starting to be left behind them. And I think that's what I want to be part of. I want to be part of lads who will be remembered for what they're doing in the first team. And then if they do go on and up, they benefit and this club benefits and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
100%.
And just a big picture question, Tommy. You mentioned about the objectives when you came in, the objective of improving home form, of not looking over your shoulder at Christmas and so on. Are the remaining sort of 14 games a free hit now, in the sense of it's been a great season. I think if we finish in the top half, a lot of people would say that's a fantastic improvement. What's your feeling about these remaining games?
Well, I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I think because we've done what we've done to now, in terms of the points per game or where we are in the table or whatever, however you look at that, I would feel disappointed if we dropped off of that level. So, I hate saying it. I've used this before. I might not have said it while I've been at Aldershot, but you don't drive your car always looking in the rear mirror. But you have to look in the rear mirror to see what you've done. Now, if we were to continue on the trajectory that we've taken points this season so far, then we won't be far away from what everybody would love to happen. But that wasn't the aim at the beginning of the season. Now, if we dropped off, I would look at it still as a successful season, simply because, touch wood, we're going to surpass the points total we got last season over 46 games before we get even 40 games. So from that point, that's only, I'm only saying that, watch us go and lose 8 games in a row now. But what I'm getting at, the stats will tell you we're likely to get above where we were last season, which is marked improvement in my opinion, because we had the FA Cup run, and there isn't a team I know yet that doesn't have a slight dip or drop after you have the high of that FA Cup run. And it was a high. It was a real, the Swindon game for me, that's historic. That won't be broken. I don't think there'll be a non-league team go to a football league team and score 7 goals. Never happened for the first 152 years of the competition. So I can't see it happening for the next 152 years. But I just feel, me being me won't want or allow us to drop off and just say, we've done enough. I couldn't do that. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, go to work thinking like that. No. So the answer to your question is I want to go at least what we're doing now on a points per game scale. And where that takes us, who knows? There might be a couple of teams, or there should be a couple of teams, there always is, come with a wet sail, as I call it, really fly at the end and land in there. Because we're in there, the expectation is we might stay there. And if we fell just short, I don't want this to be a disappointing season. And I can't see that it can be. But if we're in it until the end and we get knocked out by somebody at the last minute, then there will be a tinge of disappointment. But talking about the highs and lows of stuff, us as a staff have not celebrated anything to do with the FA Cup so far. We haven't, because all the big results were away from home. And obviously we had to travel, and on the way back we had to then get in our cars and go home and stuff. So, I said this to Mark Butler, there should be something done towards the end of the season where we can do, and I think he's arranging it, where we can actually enjoy that. The staff didn't even have a Christmas do because of the fixtures. The players were very clever and had theirs early in December. But the staff couldn't rearrange ours to get it done. So we're sitting now waiting to put our Jingle Bells hats on and go and have some sort of meal or something on the chairman, I might add, somewhere. So, but that we'd probably be the only football club that has a Christmas party in the end of April, I think, or possibly the middle of May.
Brilliant.
Make sure the chairman pays for it, Tommy.
I will. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's a good tradition. You've got some catching up to do, Tommy, you and your staff, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Tommy, pretty much done here, but just looking last few games, what would your message be to the fan base? Obviously, very passionate. People just really want the Shots to do well. What do you need from them in these last handful of games?
You know what? I don't need anything more from them than what they're giving us. I see the passion. I see the love for the club. All I would say is, every single person that I'm aware of who either works or volunteers for our football club on a match day is 100% behind me and the team. And that doesn't matter who's in it, Tom, Dick or Harry. It doesn't matter. The whole objective of every game we play is we try to take 3 points. And I know that's what the fans want. And I know that's what everybody else wants. I know it's what the players want. I just say stick with it. Like I have said, and I've said it before, it will be a bumpy ride, because if it wasn't, you're Chesterfield. Chesterfield are really the only team this season who hasn't had a blip. They've lost a game or two, but every other team, for whatever reason, could be injuries, could be suspensions, could be all of that. But somewhere along the line, we actually haven't had one. You're going to say, well, you have. You got beat 6-0 or 6-1. Yeah, but they were both cup games. They're added games. They're not planned for. They're different. I know where I am with that. I'm comfortable with saying we haven't had a long, poor run of form yet. We've had a disappointment or two, but we've had real good, responses from the group. And because, in general, other than the other night, even when we lost at home, we lost the 2 games to Chesterfield at home, having scored 3 goals. And I think the fans went home relatively happy with that. And by the way, Paul Cook said exactly what Gary Waddock said to me. He says, we will score 1 more goal than the opposition season, and that's why we win the league. He told me that in August, Paul did. And the other game was we were 5-0 down against Eastleigh, and we could have won. We should have won, weirdly. We got back to 5-3 and could have won the game 8-5. I've watched that game so many times back and forth. Yeah. That would have been the most epic of games that I've ever been involved with. So, keep doing what they're doing. Like I said, the vast majority, I think, see what we're trying to do. And if there is a minority that don't like what I try to do, then that's their privilege. They're entitled to do that. But I just think, and I say this with the most humility that I can say it, it's really important that people understand it's the mindset that separates, the best from the rest. That's what it is, mindset. And my mindset never changes. You won't change my mind by being louder behind a keyboard or on a phone on a social media site. It won't change my mind. I'm very, very, I know what I like. I know what I want. And if people don't want to do that, I'm on about people who I brought to the football club, then they will move on. People who support this football club will be here a lot longer than I will. I'd like to be here for a very long time. I really would. I think we've got something going on well, but I understand how football works. And at this moment in time, I'd say I've been backed 100% by the fans. I've been backed 100% by the players, and I've been backed 100% by the board. And if I can keep them three on side, then the only other two people I'm interested in is the tea lady at the training ground, because she keeps my cup full, and the ground staff who keep the pitch good, and I'll be happy.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You can't,
Just to chip in,
please everyone, Tommy. Can't please everyone.
No, I can't.
You can't. Just to chip in a final question, Tommy, because I know the fans are interested. Your own contract, not asking you to relay, any private details, but we'd really hope that you have options of increasing that or extending it. Is that possible? Are you able to tell us anything about
that? Yeah, I mean, I agreed to a contract extension in November, just after the Swindon game. But part of that contract states that I will always talk with the club in February after the window's closed. Not that the window should matter to me, but I know by February who I want to keep for next season. And if I'm going to be the manager, I need to be known that I'm going to be here for the next till at least the next February. But that's already in me and the chairman will be chatting in the next couple of weeks, and I hope, like I've just said to you, I hope to be able to bring you more news on that. But nothing's been done further than that. But we've certainly had a chat about it. I think I'm comfortable with the way the club operate, and I hope the club are happy with me. There are people. I've got to thank my support staff, from Hugo and Rich, Dave, all the backroom boys, the sports science, where we don't call them that, we call them football science. The football scientists, the physio department, Terry, Jamie, everybody who works on a Saturday, including the bar staff, in all the bars, the turnstile people. Listen, the football club is in a great place. I really feel this, and I just wanted to keep going. And what made me feel like this was day one. Not day one when I came in April, day one against Oxford City. That was the highest for me, because I saw a connected group of people who wanted to win that one football match. And I can tell you this now because I do it. And if you're there early enough, you'll find me in there. But I walk out of my car and I walk up and down the East Bank and I look at all the flags and I know all the names of the flags. So I've got a connection myself in there, and I go, and I've got a video, and I'll show it at the end of the season. I'll show you it at the end of the season, and I've said what I've said on the video, so I'm not going to say much more than that. But I'm in the East Bank when I did it before the Oxford game, and that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Tommy. Just thank you so much for your time. It's been so refreshing. I really appreciate you coming on. Lots of managers would say absolutely no chance you're not getting me on a podcast, so you can just quote me. But yeah. Massively appreciate it. Just you telling us what you can, being honest about it, and yeah, we're 100% behind you and the club for the rest of the season. So yeah, we're looking forward to what's going to happen.
Me too.